Hey there YouTube, how we doing? Welcome back to the channel, Tu Karma. My name is Johnny. If you haven't hit like and subscribe, please do so. Okay, so what I'm seeing is this, Machiavellianism. These are more traits, characteristics, behavior, and the way someone can act or be. Now, it isn't a dark triad that I do know, I do understand that. It's up there with narcissism, psychopathy, and there's Machiavellianism I want to talk about. And one of the reasons why I want to talk about this is because I didn't find much information in regards to Machiavelli or Machiavellianism, should I say. Now, the name Machiavelli came from back about 500 years ago, and he gathered a lot of information, traits, characteristics, and behavior. And he came up with this form of, which is now known as Machiavellianism. Machiavelli came up with that book I was mentioning, or he made the book is called The Prince, about 500 years ago. And this is me though, the way I think about it is he put together this traits and characteristics, because remember, it's not a disorder. Machiavellianism is not a disorder. It's not a DSM-5. NPD is, psychopathy is, but Machiavellianism, it's not. It's more characteristic traits of a dark triad of things. That's why you see it in the business world. That's why you see it in, the leadership roles a lot. Of Machiavellianism come from narcissism and psychopathy. So that's why it's a dark triad. Now, so they do share a lot of similarities, but a lot of it are separate and different. And I'll give you a big example right now. I do want to give an example as well of what I'm talking about, because all this stuff that I'm mentioning, I'm talking about, I don't mean it for you to go out there and start fucking slapping everybody, like a big fierro, just smacking everybody like if you're just owning the damn world. The best way to describe this, at least I want to say, it's like when they're describing, or like these monks, these monks that these straight up monks who these badass food, because I think these monks are fucking badass. Like, they train their whole fucking life. Dude, these guys get kicked in the fucking nuts. Literally get kicked in the nuts. Like, they can kick themselves in the fucking nuts and just take it. Not to mention, because their genes have been passed on for thousands of years. So think about it, their genes alone, they're fucking warriors. They're warriors. Now, I'm not saying they become a monk or whatever, but it's just their concept of what I see is they train their whole life fighting, fucking shit up, getting their fingers as hard to they can hit holes and shit. They're just badass motherfuckers. These monks train, practice their whole life, and they never fucking use it. They never use it. They never have to use it. And if they did, oh man, poor thing for the fucking person who has got to deal with that. I mean, as in in the repercussions are as if you go fight with a monk, I guarantee he'll handle your ass, and right away he'll handle your ass. This guy, Dr. Grande, he's just as dry and just as robotic and just as narcissistic as him, but you'll see how I'm talking about. His name is Dr. Grande. I love the way, one thing I do love about his work is the way he explains it, the way he breaks it down. And where I heard Sapper use this acronym, it's called OCEAN, and it's the way he describes personality traits of someone with personality, which is open to awareness, eroticism, agreeableness, and it's I don't remember it, but it's in that aspect of how to break down somebody's characteristics or trait. So right now, this video I'm about to put on, I'm gonna give you a breakdown like I usually do in the videos, just to show you the differences. Now, these are the traits that I see or resembled my own self, or at least traits that I carried. Okay, so just want to let you guys know that. But so let's start the show and let's get this going. I hope you guys do like this video I put together. I hope you guys do enjoy this. and we'll get to it. So I'm going to give you the breakdown. I have, like I mentioned, Dr. Grande in the back right now, and I believe he's ready. He's been giving me already the sign that he's ready backstage. So let me bring him out, introduce him. So I'm going to go ahead and use him. In regards, I'll leave a link to his full video of his comparison to Machiavellianism, psychopathy, and narcissism.
Dr. Grande. Today's question is, can I explain Machiavellianism and differentiate it from psychopathy and narcissism? So when we think about these three constructs, this is referred to as the Dark Triad. So we have psychopathy, narcissism, and Machiavellianism. Now specifically with Machiavellianism, this comes from a political philosopher that lived about 500 years ago named Machiavelli. And he wrote a book named The Prince. And The Prince outlined these different constructs like being ruthless and doing anything to gain power, and a lot of different types of characteristics that we now see in this construct of Machiavellianism. So Machiavellianism contains characteristics like being cynical, having a disregard for conventional morality, and being manipulative.
NPD, and I'll mention this quickly, it's kind of really hard to find someone with full-blown NPD, straight out NPD textbook shit like that. Now, you could find people with high narcissistic traits like myself, like really high up there, but they're not they're not NPD, but they are narcissistic spectrum. Remember that, spectrum. So just want to point that out real quick.
It's subclinical, so it's not studied often in the mental health realm, but it may be a separate construct. It may be separate enough to be of interest and to be studied. Should it really be part of the Dark Triad? It's kind of a separate question. Here I'm going to treat it as a construct that's distinct enough.
So one thing I'm not going to take away from Machiavellianism is that it's in the Dark Triad. That's no doubt about it. You know, people can take this information literally and use it for bad easily. There's no doubt about it. Okay, guys. So like I was mentioning, I just had to take a dog home. That's why they hate me. But, you know. So like I mentioned, guys, I wasn't taking anything away. I'm not taking anything away from it being in the Dark Triad, because can it be evil? Can it be interpreted as evil? Very evil, very bad. But I see a lot of these, you know, I'm going to just be honest and be open and say, you know, a lot of these traits or characteristics that they say, you know, do come from psychopathy and they do come from narcissism. So I do want to point that out. So like I said, I'm not taking anything away from it being a part of the Dark Triad, because remember, that I know and understand, it's not a disorder. Machiavellianism or being Machiavelli, it's not a disorder. It's more residual traits, characteristics of psychopathy and narcissism put together, and there's a slight differences in regards to the purpose or their achievements of what they look for. So, because some of the traits I don't have of Machiavellianism, but a lot of them I do have, or I notice I do. And I'll give you a good big example that you're gonna hear that I'm gonna put when I put this little video with Dr. Grande. Now, okay, there's a lot of things that separate me from them, but a lot of things I have in common with them. Same thing when it comes to psychopathy. A lot of things I have in traits, characteristics with them, a lot of things that I don't. Same thing when it comes to borderline. A lot of characters that I have with them, a lot of things I don't. And this is the most common one that I've seen so far, especially now in my development that I carry now, or things that I'm noticing in myself that I didn't notice before, because I feel that I'm more conscious of my awareness of what I'm doing. And by being more conscious of my awareness of what I'm doing, I understand, okay, don't do that, or hey, what you're doing there is this, what you're doing there is that. So I catch it, reframe it, redo it, like I mentioned before in my other videos. So this one I do want to talk about, or at least mention,
and to have good long-term strategic planning skills, so kind of high in conscientiousness in a sense. This is not a feature of psychopathy, and it's also not a feature of narcissism. They tend to be goal-oriented. A lot of times we think of these as negative goals. Some people would refer to these as evil goals, kind of inserting some philosophy in there. This is not a feature of psychopathy, and it's not a feature of narcissism. So long-term planning and goal orientation are, in a sense, unique to Machiavellianism, at least in terms of the Dark Triad.
It's beneficial for one, to understand this, see this, comprehend it, it doesn't mean to go out there and start using it, swinging it around, or causing chaos and havoc to people just because you can. So that's one thing, you know, like all these sayings, when with great power that comes with great responsibility. And this is, I believe, is one of them, because if you were to, remember, this is not a disorder from what I understand. It's not a disorder. These are characteristic and traits. I'm going to repeat this. So these are characteristic and traits. I'm going to repeat this. So obviously this is something that you can learn, what you can apply. To some of us, it comes a little more natural than others, because like I mentioned, if you are narcissistic, or if you have or one that's psychopathic, I can see you already having some of these natural traits that they describe or they talk about, and how you can apply this bad if you wanted to. But that's where I believe the balance is coming in now, and because you can also use it for good, I've noticed or seen. I'm not a doctor here, guys. It's just me as a person who's in his own development, growing, and understanding their own selves as well. And some of these traits, like I said, are a lot of the ones, at least I point out. I'll link the original video down there, but I'll give you at least the characteristics that I see in my own self, and where I'm like, whoa, okay. But now, you can use this for evil, and I'm not, and I repeat, I am not putting this up for you people to use it for evil. I'm putting this up for people can understand themselves, understand what they have, and hopefully if they were or are, maybe didn't know what they were doing, can now see what they are and see, okay, I shouldn't be doing that. I should be using it like this, or I should be, and that's kind of something where I've learned is that part is, where can I use this for good? And where I use it at least to my benefit. When it comes to my benefit, what I mean is, because I like helping people, I like making people happy, I like to do things for good. If I know someone's feeling low or down, and they did their hair, or they did their something about them, I'm gonna make sure I acknowledge that, you know, by letting them know, hey, beautiful hair. I'm not lying to them, because their hair is beautiful. I'm not saying it's the most beautiful hair. It's the fucking best hair in the hair. Well, no, I'm just gonna, hey, by the way, beautiful hair. I noticed you changed it up. That alone will get you, what they call them brownie points. That alone will get you, you know, okay, cool, because you're making that person feel better. You're making that person feel enlightened. You know, you're giving them a notice of something that, like Sapper mentioned, that they have worked on very, very hard to do, or very expensive for nowadays. I know, you know, hair nowadays, especially for women, is expensive just to do. So if you noticing things like that, or someone loses weight, you know, because they're working very hard to it, then it's good. See, that's things like that that I see in people, or, hey man, beautiful smile. Because, dude, they have a beautiful fucking smile. Like, believe me, they have a beautiful smile. Or some badass damn shoes. Like, those are badass damn shoes. Now, you know what I mean? Anyways, but anyway, that's just me there. The reason why I say all this, and I put myself in that, or at least a lot of my traits do come from there as well, or at least are in that aspect, I want to say, especially in my development. And the reason why I say that is because, well, first of all, like I said, if I wouldn't have found the tribe or Sapper, yes, I would have most definitely kept on going down that rabbit hole, or at least down that aspect of the way I was thinking, or the way I was awakening to people are not like you. People are all not like you in the sense of generous, giving, and there is people out there who are psychopathic, narcissistic, and just use you for personal gain, literally just for fucking personal gain, and they're out, you know, and they use you until you're pretty much all used up, and then discard of you, dispose of you as a damn appliance, right? So me awakening to that, I can see where Machiavellianism, especially the way Dr. Grande explains it, can't, meaning as in like, because you start thinking, dude, well, fuck this, like, fuck the world, fuck people, like, This is all it's for. It's just to gain. They just want something out of you. It's for a purpose. It's never just to fucking help you. It's always for a personal gain, or what is it you can do for me type of thing. You know, especially here in Los Angeles, California. You know, I believe which is Los Angeles, which is like the capital of narcissism, literally, or epicenter of it, at least. Because that's the way I started to perceive things. I started to see things in that aspect, or in that way of what is it this person wants from me, or what is it that they want to gain from me. It's more or less like what I started to see and think, and then of course being hurt. Like say if I kept on getting hurt. Say say if I would have never looked within, and I would have just jumped into another relationship, or would have just jumped into the next booty call or whatever that would have meant, and never looked within myself or whatever, then I more or less would have probably been like, what I kind of was actually thinking, like, fuck it, like what I'm not doing it all the time. I'm doing it sometimes, and I'm not doing it to her, like, you know what I mean? Like, you would start looking for an excuse. First of all, you're gonna start looking for an excuse, or to justify your behavior. That's one. Then second, you're gonna back it up with, everyone's like this, everyone's personal gain, everyone's cynical, everybody is just in it to win it. Nobody's kind. This whole world's fucked up. Like, you start going into that aspect and thinking, and you start forgetting who you are, who you genuinely are, which is that loving, caring person who wants to help, who wants to give to other people. So I can see where you can escape that and start going into more of these traits. That's exactly what I'm talking about. And this is one of the reasons why I want to describe this type of behavior or characteristic traits of the Dark Triad, at least, like, for just to give a comparison. So that's one aspect of it, or at least that's one of the aspects of it.
Really, with Machiavellianism, we see that the world will harm people. So the idea here is, why not join in? That's the idea behind Machiavellianism. If the world is a dark place with a cold outlook, then a little bit of extra harm created by one individual isn't a big deal. So the next characteristic of Machiavellianism would be being cynical, having a cold outlook on life, on humanity, somebody that has low trust. So there's a little bit of paranoia with Machiavellianism.
And then I was just coming to my own awakening. I was just understanding, so I was already real cautious of everything, very, very alert of what's going on, what's happening, very, very, as what they say now, when it comes to paranoid, almost, also practically paranoid. So of anything in regards to what's gonna hurt me, what's coming, because, you know, I just came from, like I said, a narcissistic abusive relationship, so a PTSD. I was believe something that really, really, really did occur. So that's another subject we'll talk about. But yeah.
Here with Machiavellianism is someone who's referred to as being pessimistic, but I don't think this is always the case. I think someone with this characteristic is pessimistic about other people and about the world, but not necessarily pessimistic about what will happen to them. Usually their personal outlook is pretty good. Again, they're manipulating people and they're disregarding morality for their own gain. So they must believe that gain has value for themselves personally.
Or at least when it comes to NPD, they don't really like to break those many rules. And of course, I learned that we tend to go against the rules a little bit more. We bend the rules, and that comes into our days of the game changes, the paradigm shifts, the ones who are going to go against the grain, because that's what Machiavellianism is to go against the grain. It's to challenge authority. It's to, go against go against the norm, which is in society nowadays, breaking the rules and all that shit is against society's rules. But
characteristics of Machiavellianism from the other characteristics of the Dark Triad, psychopathy and narcissism. And a lot of times with Machiavellianism, I hear this argument that that's really the future. Machiavellianism is really the future of business, that they're superior business leaders. But I don't really agree with this. I think that ultimately this strategy of disregarding morality and rules and doing whatever has to be done to be successful is really inefficient. Obviously it violates the norms of society, and that's a problem. There is a criminality component associated with it. So,
like I mentioned, you guys, my name is Johnny. Welcome back to the channel. All right, love you guys, and I'll see you guys then.